Hi everybody, happy Wednesday. Today for math, we're going to go ahead and continue working on measurement, but this time we're going to add something. We are going to measure the length to find the perimeter. What do I mean by the perimeter? Well, before we go ahead and get started with that, take a look and make sure you have your materials. You need workbook page 215, a ruler, and a pencil. So take some time to get yourself put together. Hit pause, and then play when you're ready. Okay, so today we're going to talk about measuring the perimeter. Let's look at this piece of paper that I have. And if you remember, my ant friend from before is back. So I want to figure out if this ant walks around the entire edge of the paper all the way around, I want to know how far he's walked. I want to know the distance around the perimeter of this paper, the edge of the paper, that this ant walked. How could we figure that out, and what tool could we use? If you're thinking we could use our ruler to measure, you'd be right. So yes, we would measure the distance around that piece of paper to determine how far the ant walked. Let me show you what I mean. Using the ruler that you have, and I have two, I'm going to measure each side of this piece of paper. So let me start. So starting at this edge, all the way over, it is about 6 inches long. It's pretty close to 6 inches. So we'll label that 6 inches to keep it simple. So this side is 6 inches. Okay, let's label this side of the piece of paper. My zero's at the edge, and it's right at the 5. So this side of the paper is 5 inches. Okay, I'm going to measure this side too, but we know that a rectangle, the opposite sides are equal, so I'm expecting this to also be 6 inches. Yep. 6 inches, and the last side, again, the opposite side of the rectangle should be the same. I'm going to assume, but I'll measure anyways. 5 inches. Okay, so looking at this paper, and the path that the ant took, the ant went 5 inches, walked 5 inches this way, 6 inches that way, 5 inches again, and 6 inches back to get to where he started. How do I figure out how far that ant walked? Well, you're right. That's exactly what I would do. I would add up all those sides. I could tell you all screamed at your computer. Okay, so let's add them up. 6 plus 6 plus 5 plus 5. And you know, you guys are really good at grouping. "22 inches. The ant walked 22 inches. All perimeter is, when you find the perimeter, you are really just finding the distance around something. That's all perimeter is finding the distance around something. You're measuring the length around. Okay, so let's try with a couple other examples. Okay, I'm going to leave this little note here for us as a reminder. Perimeter You measure the distance around. Okay, so now what you're going to need is you're going to need the piece of paper from your workbook, page 215. It says finding and measuring perimeter. You'll notice I put a little note there that says round to the nearest inch. I want us today to really focus on what perimeter is and to not get really confused if we have measurements where there's fractions involved. So I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So today what I want us to do together is we're going to practice finding the perimeter of a few objects that I have, and then I'm going to have you practice finding the perimeter of a few objects that I know you have. Okay, so let's take a look at this first example. It looks like in this example, someone measured the top of their desk. They found that one side was 18 inches, one side was 30, another 18, and another 30. To find the total distance around, you put all those together and you add them up for a grand total of 96 inches around this entire desk. That's what perimeter is, the distance around. Okay, I found something that I had, and that was our book, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. When I measured it, one side was 5 inches, the other side was 8, 5 inches, and 8 inches. To find the distance around, I need to add up all those inches to find the perimeter. So let's do that. Do this with me. Take a minute now to write book. Do your pencil sketch of my book. Label. And we'll find the perimeter together. Okay, I think you're probably caught up by now. If you're not, just hit pause. So let's add everything up. 5 inches plus 5 inches plus 8 inches plus 8 inches. 5 plus 5 is 10 inches. 8 plus 8 equals 16. 10 plus 16. A lot of you can do that in your head. 36 inches. The distance around the book, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, is 36 inches. Okay, let's try another example. The second example I'm going to do with you, I measured my iPhone. Take a second to go ahead and copy iPhone, and then my pencil sketch of what my iPhone looks like with the measurements. You'll notice that this iPhone, one side length was 5.5 inches and the width was 2.5 inches. I'll show you what we're going to do when we're adding fractions. So take a second to copy it and we'll put it together. Okay, let's put it together. 5.5 plus 5.5. So why don't we just break it up and think about it in whole numbers first. 5 plus 5. 2 plus 2. 5 plus 5 is 10. 2 plus 2 is 14. I'm sorry, 4. 10 plus 4 equals 14. But we have to add our half inches here. We have 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. Well, if you want to look at it like we would on a number line, we could use our ruler to help us. I'm just going to show you so you can see. So here's a half. I'm going to go another half. then another half, then another half. And I'm at 2. 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. So that equals 2. So our grand total around my iPhone is 14 plus 2, 16 inches. Okay? So when you find the perimeter, you measure the outside edges of your object and you put it together. You add them together, just like we did with the book. We measured the inches around and then we add them all up to find the distance around something. That's what perimeter is, the distance around something. For your practice, let's flip over. You all have your math workbook and you all have a math journal. I want you to draw a little pencil sketch of both, measure them, and find the perimeter. Now, I said a few minutes ago I want you to round to the nearest inch. For example, if you measure your notebook and it measures 7 3/4 inches, I don't want you getting caught up on adding up 3/4. Let's just round that. So look at this ruler. If it was 7 3/4, is it closer to 7 inches or is it closer to 8 inches? It's closer to 8 inches. So if you measure your workbook or your journal, round to the nearest inch. So for your notebook, I would use 8 inches. Let's keep the math simple as we understand that perimeter is simply measuring the distance around. That's what I want to focus on, what perimeter is. Don't want to focus on adding fractions. So it's okay if you round to the nearest inch. Okay? So try those two on your own. Measure them. Find the perimeter by adding up all the sides. When you're done, your review work today is simply a Kahoot reviewing place value. A simple reminder with the Kahoots though, please use your first name. If you use a different name, I don't know who you are. I'm going to have to stop using Kahoots if people aren't using their real names because that doesn't help me to know if you know what you're doing. Okay? And it's also becoming easier to find out who that person is because when 20 of you do the Kahoot and there's only one name that isn't somebody from our class, I can really kind of figure out possibly who that person is. So please, would you just use your real name so I can tell if you're understanding the material or if you're confused. Okay, so have fun with that Kahoot. And tomorrow we'll do a little bit more work with perimeter. So your work today is to practice with the place value Kahoot after you've done 2 perimeter practice pages, 2 perimeter practice. Workbook and journal. Measure all the sides, add them all up to find the perimeter. Good luck with that, and tomorrow we'll practice some more.